Welcome to the debate. When we learn to drive a car, we don't start by sitting in a classroom memorizing like the schematics of a combustion engine.
Right. I mean, you get behind the wheel, you feel the pedals, and you just start steering.
Exactly. You just drive. But when it comes to learning a new language, we insist on handing adults this dense manual of grammar rules.
Yeah, and massive vocabulary lists, all before they're allowed to even turn the key.
Right. So today, we are examining a radical alternative methodology for language acquisition. The central thesis is pretty simple. No study, just listen and speak.
And the idea there is that learners should completely abandon formal study, grammar rules, and translation to achieve true fluency.
Yep. And I will be taking the position that this pure experiential immersion is actually the ultimate key to mastering a language.
And I will be arguing that, well, while immersion is obviously valuable, an absolute dismissal of analytical study just ignores how the adult brain actually processes complex information.
I really believe that fluency is a behavioral instinct. It is not an academic exercise. If you've ever frozen up trying to order a simple cup of coffee in a foreign country, you know exactly what that mental bottleneck feels like.
Oh, absolutely. The sudden panic.
Right, the panic. Because you don't achieve fluency by memorizing thousands of words from a textbook. True fluency comes from living the language. Just think about a child.
Well, but that's the thing. Wait, let me just finish that thought. A child doesn't study grammar books for 5 years before they start speaking. They listen, watch, copy, and make a ton of mistakes. Eventually, the language just becomes natural. That is a compelling argument. But adults are not toddlers, suggesting that adults should learn exactly like children by, simply listening and copying. It ignores our fundamental need for structural frameworks.
But does it really?
I think so, yeah. Because if mistakes are your only teachers, adult learners face a massive risk of error fossilization.
Error fossilization?
Yeah. It's a phenomenon where incorrect language patterns become permanently hardwired in the brain. And that happens simply because the learner lacks the underlying grammatical architecture to recognize and correct their own mistakes.
I see why you think that. But let me give you a different perspective. That structural architecture you're defending is exactly what creates the bottleneck in the first place.
How so?
Because to be genuinely fluent, you have to bypass your native language entirely. When you see a dog, you don't see the image, translate the concept into your native language, and then translate it into English.
Well, no, of course not.
Right. You just know it's a dog. The goal is to connect the target language directly to reality.
Okay, I buy the dog analogy for concrete nouns. Pointing at a dog and naming it works perfectly without grammar. But how is this direct connection practically achieved for abstract concepts?
Through context.
But take a complex life sentence, something like, 5 years from now I want to look back and be proud. That is a highly abstract, future-oriented thought.
Sure.
If we completely abandon grammar study, how does an adult learner actually map the mechanics of a sentence like that? Without foundational rules, they are left structurally adrift, just parroting sounds.
They aren't just parroting sounds, though. They are mapping the language through massive contextual exposure and pattern recognition. The brain is basically a prediction machine,
Right, but
it learns how tenses interact not through rule memorization, but by recognizing statistical probabilities in context. And this is achieved practically through shadowing exercises.
shadowing, meaning what exactly?
Shadowing is where you literally repeat the audio out loud, like a split second behind a native speaker. You aren't analyzing the grammar at all.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, you're building physical muscle memory in your vocal cords and blazing new neural pathways in your brain. You take action first.
So act first, think later?
Exactly. Confidence doesn't precede action. It is built after action. Every spoken mistake is just a vote for a new, confident identity as a fluent speaker.
I actually agree that the fear of making mistakes paralyzes people. And treating every spoken attempt as a vote for a new identity, that is a fantastic psychological tool.
It really is.
But there's a massive contradiction in this methodology. You can't dismiss conscious, analytical understanding as useless, but then turn around and demand hours upon hours of repetitive listening to train the brain.
I don't see that as a contradiction at all. that listening isn't just passive background noise, it's active visualization.
Active visualization?
Yeah. When you listen, you connect the auditory input directly to imagination and emotion. It's a lot like learning to play the guitar entirely by ear. You don't need to read sheet music to understand how a chord progression resolves.
Okay, I play a little guitar, so I get the metaphor.
Right. You just feel the tension and the release. Overriding our academic memory with this experiential instinct, just committing to daily uninhibited practice, that is the true key to unlocking fluency.
And I maintain that while overcoming the fear of imperfection is a vital step, completely stripping away the sheet music, so to speak, leaves adult learners without the tools they really need.
The tools to do what?
To construct their own original, complex thoughts, they need some structural foundation.
Well, it is a powerful reframing of mistakes as lessons. It suggests the balance between instinct and structure remains an open question for our listeners to explore. Which brings us back to our car. You might not need the engine manual to drive,
But it certainly helps to know how the brakes work before you merge onto the highway.